For some analysis, let's speak to Sourabh Gupta. He's a senior Asia-Pacific International Relations Policy Specialist with the Institute for China-America Studies. Sourabh, as usual, great having you. How do you see the developments so far?
Well, I think the two sessions has gone just as the government and the party would have desired. There has been predictability. The message has been clear and consistent, and that China is ready to move forward in taking care of business both at home and abroad, and that it will do so in a restrained and in a business-like manner.
And beyond the obvious headlines, has anything caught your attention?
I have to be a little frank in that there's a little bit of disappointment at my end that when the government work report was put out, that government work report was not as ambitious as, say, the Central Economic Work Conference meeting in late December, or the third plenum reforms resolution, which listed out various reforms. I thought many of those would have been put into order at this at this two sessions meeting. It hasn't gone as far as I expected it to. That having been said, I think China is trying to create a more stable and predictable environment both at home and abroad. And I think it's not a surprise to me, but I've been reassured by the predictable and resolute manner in which the government is willing to tackle the external challenges, of which there are many, given the disruptions in the international system.
Yes, Sourabh, here you're bringing up a very important point, right? All the moving parts. There's a lot of action internationally. There's a lot of action, of course, right now going on in Beijing. I'd like to ask you a candid question. How do you keep up with all of these events?
I think the way to keep up with all of these events is more focus inwards in terms of self-strengthening. Regardless of what happens outside China's borders, if China can be strong and grow tall at home by itself, by doing the reform measures, China can tackle any of the challenges that are there overseas. China essentially remains in control of its own destiny, given that it is such a huge country which has grown rapidly for the last 40 years and still has 20, 30 years more of significant growth as well as prosperity and inclusion. So if China stands up straight and tall on the basis of its own self-strengthening measures, many of the disruptions abroad will fall into place and China will not be challenged. That having been said, one does need to convey where China stands with regard to all these disruptions to its international colleagues. And China has made it very clear that it likes the existing system, that it would like to champion and support that existing multilateral system, and that it will do what it can to protect it along with like-minded countries, but that China will not be turning its cheek if it is slapped by external countries, and that it will be resolute in its deterrence measures. You know, just today we are hearing, or maybe yesterday, of China slapping huge tariffs on the Canadians. Now, little background, where's this coming from? Canada slapped huge tariffs on China during the latter part of the Biden administration so as to be on good terms with the Biden administration on things like EVs and solar, etc. The Canadians, the Americans had done no investigation on the basis of which they put these tariffs. The Canadians did not do either, unlike the Europeans who actually ran an investigation on EVs and then had a process of negotiation and imposed the tariffs. The Canadians did not. And the Canadians today got their response back from China. You punish us, we will punish you back with reciprocal tariffs. That's not the way China wants to go, but China is ready to do that. But at the end of the day, as I said, self-strengthening at home is what will make China strong and tall.
Sourabh, I'd like to turn to a different angle of the same story because you've been following international media coverage of the two sessions. How do you see the narratives and the coverage from international media?
I think the narratives and the coverage have fairly accurately grasped China's position and what China wants to project to the international community. that it is a pillar of stability, that it is a responsible stakeholder, that it wants to play by the rules, that the others do want to also, that it would prefer the others play by the rules, and that it is not scared in terms of what might or might not happen. And in this regard, I think the fact that China has gone ahead with the same growth rate target suggests that regardless of what might happen on the tariff front or not, the Chinese leaders are projecting that they are in control of the economy and in charge of being capable of meeting their own growth targets. And I think the fact that China has been resolute and immediate and assured in its retaliation against the US tariffs has kind of projected that China is not the one that is going to be bending down. But at the same time, there has been a sort of focus on China as to where China is going domestically and economically, because China does have economic issues to deal with, like, for example, the legacy issues in the property sector, how quickly it is moving from excess investment-led growth to more high-quality growth. That also has been captured within the international media, but there's still some questions. Is China moving fast enough? Is it moving aggressively enough? Is it doing the necessary reforms that will allow it to take it out to that point? What is China doing with regard to fiscal transfers, with regard to aging? So those questions which were there with regarding China's management of the economy still persist, but overall the message that China wanted to put forward to itself and to the international audience, I think, has been more or less accurately grasped in the media.
Thank you, Sourabh Gupta.